I laughed over this letter and showed it to my wife, who did not laugh. She read it through with a closeness of attention that somewhat surprised me, and when she laid it down there was a strange look of pain in her eyes. "How he despises us all," she said slowly. "What scorn underlies his words. Do you not recognize it?" "He was always a cynic," I replied indifferently. "I never expected him to be anything else." "He seems to know some of the ways of the women who are coming here," she went on in the same musing accents. "It's as if he read their thoughts, and perceived their intentions at a distance." Her brows knitted frowningly, and she seemed for some time absorbed in gloomy meditation. But I did not pursue the subject. I was too intent on my own fussy preparations for the prince's arrival to care about anything else. And, as I have said, royalty in the person of one of the most genial of men came and went through the whole programme devised for his entertainment, and then departed again with his usual courteous acknowledgments for the hospitality afforded and accepted, leaving us, as he generally leaves everybody, charmed with his good humour and condescension, provided his temper has not been ruffled. When, with his exit from the scene, the whole party broke up, leaving my wife and me to our own two selves once more, there came a strange silence and desolation over the house that was like the stealthy sense of some approaching calamity. Sybil seemed to feel it as much as I did, and though we said nothing to each other concerning our mutual sensations, I could see that she was under the same cloud of depression as myself. She went oftener to Little Lily College, and always from these visits to the fair-haired student among the roses came back, I hopefully fancied, in softer mood. Her voice was gentler, her eyes more thoughtful and tender. One evening she said, "I have been thinking, Geoffrey, that perhaps there is some good in life after all, if only I could find it out and live it. But you are the last person to help me in such a matter." I was sitting in an armchair near the open window, smoking, and I turned my eyes upon her with some astonishment and a touch of indignation. "What do you mean, Sybil?" I asked. "Surely you know that I have the greatest desire to see you always in your best aspect. Many of your ideas have been most repugnant to me." "Stop there," she said quite quickly, her eyes flashing as she spoke. "My ideas have been repugnant to you, you say? What have you done, you as my husband, to change those ideas? Have you not the same base passions as I, and do you not give way to them as basely? What have I seen in you from day to day that I should take you as an example? You are master here, and you rule with all the arrogance wealth can give. You eat, drink, and sleep. You entertain your acquaintances simply that you may astonish them by the excess of luxury in which you indulge. You read and smoke, shoot and ride. There an end. You are an ordinary, not exceptional man. Do you trouble to ask what is wrong with me? Do you try, with the patience of great love, to set before me nobler aims than those that I have consciously or unconsciously imbibed? Do you try to lead me, an erring, passionate, misguided woman, into what I dream of as the light of faith and hope, which alone gives peace?" And suddenly, burying her head in the pillows of the couch on which she leaned, she broke into a fit of smothered weeping. I drew my cigar from my mouth and stared at her helplessly. It was about an hour after dinner, and a warm, soft autumnal evening. I had eaten and drunk well, and I was drowsy and heavy-brained. "Dear me," I murmured, "you seem very unreasonable, Sybil. I suppose you are hysterical." She sprang up from the couch, her eyes dried on her cheek as though by sheer heat of the crimson glow that flushed them, and she laughed wildly. "Yes, that is it," she exclaimed. "Hysterical, nothing else. It is accountable for everything that moves a woman's nature. A woman has no right to have any emotion that cannot be cured by smelling salts. Heartache? Pooh! Cut her stay-lace. Despair and a sense of sin and misery? Nonsense. Bathe her temples with vinegar. An uneasy conscience? Ah, for an uneasy conscience there is nothing better than a salt volatile. Woman is a toy, a breakable fool's toy, and when she is broken, throw her aside and have done with her. Don't try and piece together the fragile rubbish." She ceased abruptly, panting for breath, and before I could collect my thoughts or find any words wherewith to reply, A tall shadow suddenly darkened the embrasure of the window, and a familiar voice inquired, "May I, with the privilege of friendship, enter unannounced?" I started up. "Romanes!" I cried, seizing him by the hand. "Nay, Geoffrey, my homage is due here first," he replied, shaking off my grasp and advancing to Sibyl, who stood perfectly still where she had risen up in her strange passion. "Lady Sibyl, am I welcome?" "Can you ask it?" she said, with an enchanting smile and a voice from which all the harshness and excitement had fled. "More than welcome." Here she gave him both her hands, which he respectfully kissed. "You cannot imagine how much I have longed to see you again." "I must apologize for my sudden appearance, Geoffrey," he then observed, turning to me, "but as I walked here from the station and came up your fine avenue of trees, I was so struck with the loveliness of this place and the exquisite peace of its surroundings that, knowing my way through the grounds, I thought I would just look about and see if you were anywhere within sight before I presented myself at the conventional door of entrance. And I was not disappointed. I found you, as I expected, enjoying each other's society. The happiest and most fortunate couple existent, people whom, out of all the world, I should be disposed to envy, if I envied worldly happiness at all, which I do not." I glanced at him quickly. He met my gaze with a perfect unembarrassed air, and I concluded that he had not overheard Sybil's sudden melodramatic outburst. "Have you dined?" I asked, with my hand on the bell. "Yes, thanks. Thanks, yes. The town of Leamington provided me with quite a sumptuous repast of bread and cheese and ale. I am tired of luxuries, you know. That is why I find plain fare delicious. You are looking wonderfully well, Geoffrey. Shall I offend you if I say you are growing, yes, positively stout, with the stoutness befitting a true country gentleman who means to be as gouty in the future as his respectable ancestors?" I smiled, but not altogether with pleasure. It is never agreeable to be called stout in the presence of a beautiful woman to whom one has only been wedded a matter of 3 months. "You have not put on any extra flesh," I said, by way of feeble retort. "No," he admitted, as he disposed his slim, elegant figure in an armchair near my own. "The necessary quantity of flesh is a bore to me always. Extra flesh would be a positive infliction. I should like, as the irreverent though reverent Sydney Smith said, on a hot day to sit in my bones, or rather to become a spirit of fine essence like Shakespeare's Ariel, if such a thing were possible and permissible. How admirable married life agrees with you, Lady Sibyl." His fine eyes rested upon her with apparent admiration. She flushed under his gaze, I saw, and seemed confused. "When did you arrive in England?" she inquired. "Yesterday," he answered. "I ran over Channel from Honifer in my yacht. You did not know I had a yacht, did you, Tempest? Oh, you must come for a trip in her some day. She is a quick vessel, and the weather was fair." "Is Emile with you?" I asked. "No, I left him on board the yacht. I can, as the common people say, valet myself for a day or two." "A day or two?" echoed Sibyl. "But surely you will not leave us so soon. You promised to make a long visit here." "Did I?" And he regarded her steadily, with the same languorous admiration in his eyes. "But, my dear Lady Sibyl, time alters our ideas, and I am not sure whether you and your excellent husband are of the same opinion as you were when you started on your wedding tour. You may not want me now." He said this with a significance to which I paid no heed whatever. "Not want you!" I exclaimed. "I shall always want you, Lucio. You are the best friend I ever had, and the only one I care to keep. Believe me. There's my hand upon it." He looked at me curiously for a minute, then he turned his head towards my wife. "And what does Lady Sibyl say?" he asked in a gentle, almost caressing tone. "Lady Sibyl says," she answered with a smile and the color coming back and going in her cheeks, "that she will be proud and glad if you will consider Willsmere your home as long as you have leisure to make it so, and that she hopes, though you are reputed to be a hater of women," here she raised her beautiful eyes and fixed them full upon him, "you will relent a little in favor of your present chatelaine." With these words and a playful salutation, she passed out of the room into the garden, and stood on the lawn at a little distance from us, her white robes shimmering in the mellow autumnal twilight, and Lucio, springing up from his seat, looked after her, clapping his hand down heavily on my shoulder. "By heavens!" he said softly, "a perfect woman! I should be a churl to withstand her, or you, my good Geoffrey. And he regarded me earnestly. I've led a very devil of a life since I saw you last. It's time I reform. Upon my soul it is. The peaceful contemplation of virtuous marriage will do me good. Send for my luggage to the station, Geoffrey, and make the best of me. I've come to stay. End of chapter 28 of The Sorrows of Satan.